Hi, my name is Robert Chelle with Chelle Law, and my law firm assists professionals with employment contract issues. Today I'm going to talk about whether you should tell a future employer about a non-compete. So, let's say you've signed an employment agreement or an independent contractor agreement that included a non-compete, and then in this scenario, it's very likely you've given notice to terminate the agreement, and then you've decided to move on to a new job. So, what is your duty to inform your new employer about your old non-compete? Well, first, many contracts will include language that states you must disclose the non-compete in the contract that you've signed to any potential employer, not just someone that you've signed with, but any kind of employer that you're, going through the job search interview process with. Now, you also have to think about the repercussions of if you've signed a non-compete, you've decided to break it, and then you start with a new employer, kind of what those repercussions could be. So let's just say you've signed the non-compete and you've just decided for whatever reason, I'm just going to violate it and see what happens. And so you start with a new employer. Well, your old employer gets wind that you're violating the non-compete. And they're going to likely do two things. One, well, they know who you're now working for, so they're going to not only send a cease and desist to you, but they'll likely send it to your new employer as well. And if your new employer gets that, and they've had, kind of no idea that you are under the terms of a previous non-compete, they're not going to be super excited about that, and they very likely could decide to terminate you based upon, the termination language in your employment agreement. Or perhaps they could also say that you're in breach of contract due to your old non-compete, and then could just terminate you for cause immediately, potentially. So I would suggest it just makes sense that if you do have a non-compete from a previous job, that you let your new employer know about it. Now, let's say you're in a circumstance where, you're working in a state and then you're getting a new job that's completely out of state. Well, if there's no language in your agreement that states you must disclose this to them, and it's clearly well outside of the limits of your non-compete, then there's no reason to bring up a non-compete to them unless they ask about it. You're not legally obligated to let a new / potential employer know about an old non-compete, unless it states it specifically in the contract that you signed. But as I stated before, if you're going to violate the agreement, you're probably going to get fired anyway once your new employer finds out that you're in violation. So it just makes sense to bring it up to them. But obviously, if you're going to take a new job and then tell your new potential employer, hey, I have a non-compete, but I'm just going to ignore it, you likely won't get that job anyway. The strategy that makes the most sense is don't sign any employment agreement with a non-compete that you're not willing to accept. Now, there are some states where non-competes are completely unenforceable. I would check, see if your state is one of those. And any state's only going to enforce a non-compete that they consider reasonable in scope, meaning it states specifically what you're not allowed to do, for how long, within a certain geographic radius. So if it is completely out of bounds, it's likely a court wouldn't enforce it. But I would talk to a professional about that prior to signing any kind of non-compete. So in summary, do you have to let a future employer know about a non-compete? No, unless it is specifically stated in the contract that you must do so. Although on a practical level, it would make sense to let them know either way. Anyway, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions about your employment agreement or non-compete, feel free to contact my law firm at the phone number listed below in the description, or you can reach us through our website, chellelaw.com. If you thought this video was helpful, please subscribe to the channel. We release videos every single day. All right, appreciate it. Thanks.